What's up, guys? Coming back at you with my good friend Don Moxley. If you guys don't remember Don, we did an interview a while back on spermidine, the molecule spermidine, and from the company Longevity Labs. And spermidine is known for anti-aging, inflammation. It induces autophagy, so it induces cell recycling, and it's super powerful. And Don, he shared some of his experience with dementia and even the virus that was plaguing us. There was some really good data with that. Don has an amazing background and experience, over 30 years of experience in the sports and performance space. He worked as a captain for the Big Ten championship winner, Ohio State, and has done a lot of research and HRV research specifically. And that is what we're going to get in today. Bringing on my man, Don Moxley. What's up, brother?
It is a great day in Western Wyoming for today.
Yeah, Don, you should probably tell everybody, you've been on this amazing road trip. You kind of put everything, you put the what do you call it? The career, you're on the road. You tell people what you're doing. I think we're using Starlink today to record, and
we're using Starlink. Yeah. Thank you, Starlink, for the good connection. But back in January, our daughter moved out of the house, and I looked at my wife and said, we got to go find a new place to live. And she was all about it, and we sold the house. So daughter moved out January 2nd. The house was on the market the 21st, sold the 23rd, and we bought a 42-foot fifth wheel trailer, and we're out looking to find our next home. We're giving ourselves a couple years to travel to beautiful places. Like I said, we're coming to you today from Western Wyoming, about an hour outside of Jackson Hole, and about 100 feet from the Idaho line. So we're right over here on the edge, and we're coming close. I mean, the gravity to Boise is working, but we're leaving here and heading up to Kalispell, Montana, and then across to Seattle, and we're looking for letting our next home have a chance to find us.
Awesome. I'm waiting for you to come. I live on a corner lot, so I got this nice strip that you can park the RV, and it actually really helped. Yeah, and it actually really helped me out because there's some guy in my neighborhood who just keeps spilling tar all over the place, and he parks there. So maybe you can take his spot. That'll be good. Yeah. Hey, so today, we're going to talk about this new product that you had me try, which I'm really excited about. It's called HRV Plus by the Mode Method, which is a spinoff from Longevity Labs, right?
It's a sub-brand of Longevity Labs. And what happened, Joel, is when I started working with Longevity Labs and doing podcasts just like the one we did with you, inevitably the discussion goes back to the work we did at Ohio State with the wrestling program there, the work that we did identifying HRV as a key performance indicator. And finally, our CEO, Daniel Dietz, came to me one day and said, listen, you talk about HRV all the time. Why don't we have a product? Why don't we do a product to affect that? And ironically, this is something I've been talking about for 5 years. Ever since I started working in the cannabis business, I said, okay, there's something here. Cannabis in general doesn't get it. And when they came to me, I've suggested this formulation to many companies. Nobody followed through with it. And I guess we were the ones that were supposed to do it. So we created the samples. We did the initial formulation, and the results have just been ridiculous. We're really happy with the way it's working.
I love just hearing this story because it always reminds me of just how the universe works and the law of attraction and these amazing things. And, it's like you said, you knew about this kind of data. You had the data, you had the information years ago. The gatekeepers didn't want to listen. So here you go in a roundabout way, teaming up with Longevity Labs and Spermidine. And now they are the ones that are like, let's roll with it. So what a great story.
Yeah, it's been evidence of a great leader, Joel, that, working with a good team, they kind of let people do what they're good at. And so this was our first shot at this. We're going to do more, but HRV Plus, we rolled out this new brand called Mode and Method, modeplusmethod.com, modemethod.com. Either one will get you there. And our first product, we're really excited about HRV Plus, and we're getting great results.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that. I got some really cool results just to talk about in my own family life. Before we go there, I just anything new with spermidine and anything new with the research or anything you guys are doing. I know I just saw that you guys just looks like you released a higher dosage, so you can get like higher gram per dose. And I'm wondering
Right.
if there's anything new that you guys are seeing with that.
Yes. So what happened is we launched originally with a 1 milligram per day dose. Now, the reason we launched with that is that's what the European Union. We're an Austrian company, so much of what we do is under the direction of the European Union, and they said, okay, this is your dose you can release. Went there, but we had a lot of researchers and a lot of biohackers that were saying we want more. And we have safety studies. We've done safety studies on sperm on our extract up to 20 milligrams a day. So our regular dose is 1. We've measured safety to 20 with no issues. So we have released a 6 milligram a day dose. We call it Pro. And ironically, you can actually go to our website and get what we call a cleanse pack. It's a 10-day 6 milligram a day dose, and we're working with scientists and physicians and experts on this. I don't think 6 milligrams every day, 365 is necessary. We're figuring that out, but certainly a month's worth or 10 days worth of the high dose, and then go back down to your regular 1 milligram dose. We're working on how that works out, but we certainly have a 6 milligram a day dose. You can only buy the month packs through physicians. So you have to go to our website, find a physician that sells it, because we think having that professional interface is important. And so you can go find it there, or you can buy the 10-day 6 milligram a day dose on our website.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's an interesting concept then of like pulsing it, like you said, for just 10 days and then go back and then pulse it again, maybe every month or every other month. I
Right.
like that.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah, and the higher dose, the cost of the spermidine, while the dose is, I think a 10-day dose is 180, 190 bucks. It's if you were taking that with regular Spermidine Life, it's actually a third cheaper. So you get a much bigger volume of spermidine. It costs a little bit more, but relatively it's more affordable, and we're constantly working our way back towards that. Anyone who's a Spermidine follower, if you follow Spermidine Life, keep an eye on our website. We've got some new products in the pipeline, all of which are designed to be able to get you more spermidine at a lower price. And we work hard on that every day.
Yeah, so I'll just say my own experience with spermidine. What I noticed immediately was sleep scores went up on my Aura ring when I was using Aura to track everything, and I felt more refreshed on less sleep. That was just like a general feeling. Also, which was really cool, like you said, you've got some new products. You've got an immunity spermidine, which has got like zinc and I think some mushrooms like complexes in there.
Exactly.
And I didn't tell you this, but I believe, I don't know, but in May I contracted the virus. I think I did. I didn't get tested, but based on what I felt and just talking with other people and some of the symptoms, I'm going to say that's probably what I got. And so I was using that product heavily. I was going to my biohacking cabinet. Like, what do I have? And I was definitely, I was dosing on it, and I was sick for about 2 days, pretty bad with just headaches and body aches. And then another 3 days, total of 5 days of just like aches. But I was functional the next 3 days, just achy. So I think it helped.
Well, and I think there's a lot of science to back up your decision, in the fact that we have a paper that came out of Berlin that shows that spermidine supplementation on human immune cells interferes with COVID transmission 85, 90, 92% of the time. And we know that the virus, we'll use that term, we know that it actually interferes with the autophagy mechanism in cells. We know that's how that virus works. Yep. It overproduces autophagomes at the beginning of the autophagy process, and it interferes with the lysosome connection with those autophagoms, which actually digests what's there. But as you ramp up autophagy from other sources, primarily spermidine supplementation, it overrides that interruption. So you get the full digestion of the virus, you get the improved immunity with that. And again, with quote unquote the virus, you got to be careful about claims, you got to be careful about what we do. But we are getting a lot of positive feedback on long haul people who are struggling with things over time. Listen, there's no doubt that as you improve autophagy, you improve viral immunity protection. And that's the benefit of fasting. And it's not losing weight. It's improved immune response.
Right.
So anytime that you're jacking that process up, you're going to see a positive response on that. And that's what we do.
Hey, but just on that note, because you are inducing autophagy through this supplementation, I'm curious. Like, I don't know if I asked you this on the last podcast, but I work with a lot of weight loss clients. I mean, I'm sure if you can, and I was just interviewing someone else who's a nutritionist, and she says, hey Joel, like one of the first things I do with clients, and I'm in coherence with this statement, and she's like, I got to lower inflammation for most of them, and if they're insulin resistant and all these things, I can't even put them on any diet. None of that even matters because they're so toxic and inflamed. I got to bring down inflammation, which is what this product does very well, by the way. Yes. If you look at all the research. So I'm wondering, either with Spermidine or even the new dosage, like that 10-day pulse, I'm wondering if you guys have seen or got any feedback of just, weight loss. It's not going to be like sustainable for the rest of your life, but just, in the short term, if you've seen anything.
We have several studies going on right now. I have to go back and review. I don't, all of them are going to measure weight. I don't think any of them are designed as a weight loss tool.
Yeah.
But with that said, we get a lot of feedback. Again, the inflammation. Listen, at the end of the day, I'm not a big weight loss guy. I think weight loss or the appropriate weight is a function of all the appropriate practices. Are you sleeping well? Is your insulin under control? Are you exercising? Those are all the things that deliver benefit. Weight loss is secondary to that because, we've seen this. I mean, I can staple your gut, you can lose weight, but you don't necessarily get a lot healthier.
Yeah.
You get healthier when you move. You get healthier when you improve your food intake and nutritional density of the food. You improve when you have great sleep. It lowers insulin resistance. It improves that circadian cycle, all those things. And oh, by the way, when you're doing all these things right, your HRV increases. You're able to manage your parasympathetic state. You're able to manage that rest and digest state more, and you have a drop in inflammation. This is what you go for. There's no two ways about it. The high dose works in that space pretty well. There's no doubt that the increased autophagy and again, when you combine this, whether it's with resveratrol or metformin or these are all other autophagy pathway triggers. I mean even to rapamycin. These are all fasting mimetics. There's benefit that comes with it, but that benefit lies at the feet of movement, of sleep, of nutritionally dense food, and of getting light. And again, I can't say enough. I mean, I think light, understand this. I mean, you can see over my shoulder. Let me turn my, there's my red light system. That's nice. An infrared sauna over my other shoulder. This is critical. And we moved into a fifth wheel trailer, but the one we picked was one that I could put my stuff into because it's so important. And so it all lies at that foundation, and then weight will take care of itself.
Beautifully said. I always say you can't hack your way out of weight loss. I love biohacking. I love this space. But you can't hack your way out of it. You said a lot of interesting stuff though, and you brought out a lot back to sleep and HRV, which is exactly what this product does. Spermidine actually does too. But
Right.
so let's dive into that. And I think some of the importance of that, because it's funny. I remember I had a client who's doing really well with weight loss, and the one piece that he was missing, I'm like, is your sleep. I think if you just dialed that in, and I've done continuous glucose monitors and CGMs, and when I stay up later and I don't get to bed on time, guess what? My glucose is high at night, and when I wake up, it's high. When I go to bed on time and I wake up refreshed, my glucose, guess what? It's lower. Shocking. But and another fascinating thing, and maybe you can echo this, is the body cannot heal. It cannot get better if it is not in a parasympathetic state. It just can't. So,
Yeah.
so I got to
Remember,
imagine that if we can increase HRV, that's going to help.
Sympathetic state. The body's saying, I'm under attack. Lion walks around the corner. The body says, ooh, amygdala says, fear this, dumps, it tells the adrenals to dump the adrenaline and dump the cortisol. All of that is about utilizing resources to escape the stress, the challenge, the lion. Okay. Once we get away from the lion and our amygdala isn't on fire and we're not dumping all these chemicals, the body says, okay, let's recover. Let's climb up into a tree and take a nap. You're not lunch to the lion, and let's go ahead and recover. And so as we enter this parasympathetic state, this is where we grow. This is where we get stronger. This is the beauty of that system. That our challenge is that we don't have to deal with furry lions. We deal with paper lions. We have the IRS. We have our relationships. We have work. We have all these things that we see that, and our brain doesn't know the difference. You know, I'll tell you a funny story. I think you'll like this. I walked into our wrestling room one day, and we were deep in our program, and we're getting ready to go to nationals, and probably, I think we're solid 3 weeks out of nationals, probably 2 weeks out of Big Tens. And one of my athletes looks at me and says, Coach Moxley, he says, will video games affect my HRV? And he said, I had a hella game of one of these first-person shooter games. And he says, will that affect it? And my redneck background, I wanted to come in with an authentic firearm and pull it out and get the fear response, right? You don't do that kind of stuff these days. But I just used my finger and I said, so if I were pointing a gun at you right now, would you be afraid? He's like, absolutely. And I said, that's the thing. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a video game and a real gun. You just knows you're being shot at. And then you contribute to that with poor light, interfering with sleep cycles, all these other things that go with it. But certainly, and we basically had to coach this kid through, get off of your video games 3 weeks before nationals, before Big Tens,
Wow.
because we needed to optimize that parasympathetic response. I'm getting them all the sympathetic they need in practice. I mean, we're training them hard, and great kid. I mean, my last year that I was there, Joel, my team was cognitively, they were sharp. I didn't have any jackrabbits, any dumbasses on the team. Everyone was pretty sharp. And Luke did what, I mean, at the time he was the number 1 ranked wrestler in the country, and went on and did very well. But yeah, this is the challenge about recognizing all of the sympathetic stimuli that we can have. How do we minimize that or turn the sympathetic part off so that parasympathetic can come into play and recover? Yeah.
How do we do that? Can this product help with that? But I love it because, I mean, you would think something like video games would do anything, but especially when you're competing at such a high level and you want that parasympathetic tone going into the championships. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Let's get away from that.
Well, and that was the foundation of designing the product. When you look at that central nervous system, we have part of our central nervous system that's called the endocannabinoid system. It was discovered recently. They named it after the cannabis, molecule, the cannabinoid molecule. And what we know is that as you improve endocannabinoid tone, you improve parasympathetic tone. It goes hand in hand. Science is very clear on this. So that this is what, when we look at cannabinoids, the molecules that cannabis plants produce, two of the big ones, well, the one we really pay attention to is what's called CBDA. We've all seen signs for CBD. The plant actually produces the molecule in its acid form, CBDA. I personally think it's a much more effective parasympathetic supplement. Now, we use both CBD and CBDA, but then we also come in with a team of what's called terpenes. So there are other plant chemicals that cannabis produce that have radically positive effects, or negative. They can be negative too. But we then come in with a terpene blend on top of the cannabinoids. Then we put this into a DHA EPA oil, which is an omega-3, to help reduce inflammation. And the oils that we're using, Joel, are also have what's called specialized pro-resolution mediators in it, pro-resolving mediators. And these are very biologically available omega-3s. They're the derivative of the omega-3 enzymatic process that lowers inflammation and lowers pain. These things are wonderful. I mean, I use SPMs in and of themselves with a lot of my athletes and people I work with. So we've been able to do the best of combining cannabinoid and terpene plant medicine with some of these omega-3s, DHA, EPA, SPMs into a single part. And listen, it makes sense. If we improve endocannabinoid tone, CBD, CBDA, beta-caryophyllene, the other terpenes, that happens. As we improve inflammation, we're lowering the sympathetic contribution of inflammation by having the resolving part of the inflammation process. It makes sense that it would pay through. And in our early testing, we're seeing a bump in HRV, but the big thing across the board that we're seeing everyone comments on is the sleep. I take this and I sleep all night. And you know, it makes sense. How do you get fully parasympathetic? How do you get the full benefit of that without just really high quality sleep? And we're getting it. It's not like you're taking, you know, a sleeping pill, which is a bit of a barbiturate. That's not what's happening here. We're getting support made to the endocannabinoid system so that our sleep systems can work, and we're able to drop into a good deep sleep and you stay there all night.
The neat thing too is when you can increase that parasympathetic tone and lower inflammation, now the body can start working on healing whatever it is. If you have any autoimmune or anything, so it's going to be that's going to be a huge, that's going to be a game changer for people with any ailments, or if they, you know, they need to get into that relaxed state. Yeah, I mean, let's talk more about just some of the ingredients you got there. I'm looking at it right now. You got omega-3 oil. We've got, it's simple. It's omega-3 oil, that hemp blend, magnesium carbonate, which we know magnesium is great. Most people are deficient in the US, and
it's important in that serotonin, melatonin conversion.
Yeah. And then you've got curcumin. And so it seems like, okay, like that's it. But this thing works, man. It works gangbusters. And I was telling you offline, because you were asking me how's it been going. I go, hey, I gave it to my mother-in-law. I didn't really tell her too much about it. I go, hey, this guy told me to, you know, she's into this kind of stuff too. And she tried it, and like a week went by. I forgot to ask her about it. I go, oh, how's that thing working? And she goes, oh, I slept through the entire night. I go, oh, is that good? She's like, hijo, my mother-in-law Salvador, and she goes, I slept. I always wake up at least one time in the night. And I go, oh, wow. So like, did it work just one night? Or she's like, the entire week. Same thing happened with my dad. So really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, this has been the exciting part of it. So we're excited to get it out in the market. We've got a couple studies that we're starting to crank up. Listen, everything in this product is generally recognized as safe. All I've done is kind of done an all-star team. Gone out. Again, I think the cannabis market is missing the boat on CBD. The valuable product is CBDA. It's the acid. If you do any research there, you see it. The acid is, now we put CBD in too, just to make sure we have both. But then you back this up with the right terpene blends, and we've all heard that lavender helps you sleep. Well, that terpene that makes the lavender is called linalool, and no doubt linalool. Now, we don't put linalool in this. We did not design this as a sleep supplement. If I had designed this
to work really well
it
with
just
sleep.
and listen, I can't give you a pill and you look at your aura ring and your HRV goes up. It doesn't work that way. But what I can do is I can give you a supplement that supports the underlying endocannabinoid system, that supports your underlying inflammation resolving system. And as those two systems work better, you're going to see an improvement in HRV and health and all those things that you do.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk again a little bit on that hemp oil extract, because I've heard this and I want to just maybe you can even just clarify it even a little bit more, because so many times I hear, well, it just like I've tried CBDs in the past too, various kinds. I never felt like it really worked for me personally. And I always felt like, well, the recommended dose is like 25 milligrams. Maybe I'm like one of those guys who needs, I always found that I do need to go high dose, like 100 milligrams. But even when I would go high dose, I never felt like I got this huge calming relaxation. And people would say, well, you got to find the right one and certain terpenes and da 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 da.
Yeah.
So yeah, what have you guys found? Like, hey, like, is it like you said, it's that CBDA that has been very, very effective?
So the challenge is when you look at the cannabis industry and our Longevity Labs is an Austrian company, but we're based in Colorado in the States. So obviously we have a lot of cannabis knowledge available to us. We're actually working with a company out of Florida that I worked with when I was down there. And the cannabis industry is funky in the fact that when we legalize cannabis in a state, we usually do it on the backs of cancer patients and epileptics. But once we legalize it, the state immediately becomes an adult use rec market. That medical card is really a get out of jail free card. And it may give you access. You've got to be careful with black market cannabis. When I was in Florida, we had a situation down in Fort Lauderdale where a shipment of cannabis had come in from Jamaica that was laced with fentanyl, and it was creating all kinds of problems down there. When you're purchasing cannabis products from dispensaries, the chain of command. You're not getting the drug laced junk. Now that said, the cannabis market is very much about how much THC people buy cannabis by THC, which I think is a huge mistake. I think the cannabis market's missing an excellent opportunity to teach their clientele, because the effect of cannabis is a combination of the THC and the terpenes. It's the terpenes that have as much of an effect as anything. But so with that said, we extracting the cannabinoids from the plant, there's different processes that you can use. Most of the time the THC gets converted so it becomes active in the extraction process. We don't want that. We want the acid form. We want the CBD coming out in its acid form. So we use an extraction process that keeps the CBD intact, the CBDA intact, I should say. And frankly, we use much bigger doses. I think the mistake that most people make with CBD is their doses are way too low. And the market is not doing a good job of getting high dose products out there. They're just, because if you can sell someone a half a gram of CBD in a 30 mil tincture for $70, listen, I buy CBD for $1 a gram. Okay. That's where the market's at.
Yeah.
But that's where the the wholesale market is at. I think so. We put a lot of CBD and CBDA in our product.
Yeah.
Put our money where our mouth is, kind of a thing. And then backing that up with the terpenes is important.
Okay, cool. That's helpful. And then I wanted to ask you also, because I've heard in the past that when you're doing with CBD and stuff, there's a loading period, or I think like, hey, you need to do like 30 days. You need to kind of like constantly kind of hit that endocannabinoid system before you finally like feel the effects.
Yeah,
Do you
not with
any?
HRV plus.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like I don't take this and then because I usually take it after dinner and then I'm up for a couple more hours reading the kids' books and stuff and doing stuff.
Yeah,
So I don't just fall asleep, and like
no,
pass out with this stuff. And I've even gone up to higher dosage
it's
to with your recommendation up to even 8 capsules. And the recommended dosages for anybody is just 2. And I've even done 8. And again, I don't get like loopy or anything, but I sleep
yeah,
great.
it's not.
That's what it.
It's not an intoxicant. It's not a barbiturate. All it's doing is supporting underlying systems, endocannabinoid system, lowering, giving your inflammatory system a chance to resolve the inflammation there. Um, and we take so much when you look at pain, we take the Advils and the Tylenols and the aspirins and things like that, are what's called COX-2 inhibitors. So there's an enzyme, COX-1, COX-2. There's 5 enzymes in this inflammatory process. It blocks one of them. It blocks COX-2. Well, in the pro-resolving portion of the inflammation process, when you take an anti-inflammatory, you block the COX-2 enzyme working on the omega-3, which is causing that's interfering with the resolving portion of the inflammation. So all we're doing is supporting that. More omega-3s, more SPMs, making it available. I've worked with some athletes and I'll get banged up. I'll do something. My knee will be hurting. And I take an Advil or I take an ibuprofen or something like that. I always back that up with SPMs because whatever I'm interfering with that COX-2 inhibitor, I at least want to support on the backside as much as I can so that I can get the inflammation pulled out of the cell. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and then just if you could just highlight too the SPMs because I had never heard of this, and you were telling me how these amazing results that you got just with your daughter who like fractured her foot and for a
Yeah, it
volleyball tournament,
fracture. Wasn't fracture. It
sprain,
was
sprain,
yeah, it was a sprain.
sprain.
Yeah, we can't fix broken bones.
Yeah,
But
not as fast as this injury, anyways.
yeah, no. So the story goes, my daughter was a lacrosse player at Ohio State. She had a game coming up on a Tuesday. On a Thursday, she came down on her ankle and blew it up. Just turned it badly, swelled up, on crutches, calling dad and mom. I'm really upset. And so you can buy SPMs from Amazon. And I recommend. They're not cheap, but they are a wonderful product. And I had learned about SPMs through another great podcaster, Ken Ford's podcast, STEM Talk, which I think is a wonderful podcast. So I jump onto Amazon. A bottle arrives at her house the next day. She goes to 4 milligrams a day. By Sunday, she's off crutches. The training staff's like, "What are you doing?" And Joel, I'm an old athlete too. I blew my ankles up when I was wrestling in college, and you learn to use ice aggressively. You learn to do some of these things. I didn't have SPMs back then, but she played on a Tuesday after being on crutches on a Friday. And that's and it was the SPMs.
Yeah.
They pull. Now listen, she had her ankle taped like a cast. I mean, don't get me wrong. There wasn't full structural integrity there.
Yeah.
But pain was gone, movement was there. She played. And so that's where I learned about SPMs. The more we work with them, the more I'm like, okay, this is a great molecule. And it's been a challenge for us to source these into our product, frankly. But we're excited to have them, and that's what will be there.
Yeah, really cool. And then the last one, the curcumin extract. We all know about turmeric and it's great for inflammation, but I have always even been confused like, okay, but how much do I need and what's the difference between this extract and this one says 95% curcuminoids? Anything you can kind of say about that and how it's sourced and why this one's better?
No, listen, when I was putting together the mix, I went back to our formulators and said, okay, what else do we need to get in here? Again, I wanted some magnesium. Again, magnesium plays such a critical role in so many processes. Everyone I work with, I wind up recommending a magnesium supplement to. It seems to be one of those things that we can raise up. You got to be a little bit careful with the gut when you get too much of it. But so I said, I want some magnesium in there. But they said, listen, curcumin is, and I'm like, great, I'm on it. The research on curcumin as an anti-inflammatory is solid. And we were able to get it in the mix.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm good with that. I was just wondering if there was, and then you hear you need black pepper, and then black pepper is no good. You need an oil. So yeah, I was just curious.
Well, actually, one of the benefits of black pepper is one of the terpenes that we really bank in on. So beta caryophyllene is in black pepper, and chemically, beta caryophyllene is a lot like a cannabinoid. So if black pepper and some of these other plants didn't have beta caryophyllene would probably be considered a cannabinoid. Because chemically they're really close, and it's a great anti-inflammatory. It's a great pain receptor agonist. It hits all the key elements that we want. CBD. What's interesting is CBD. Your body has what's called CB receptors, cannabinoid receptors. There's 1 and 2. CBD doesn't even bond to CB1 or CB2. Doesn't even go there. But what it does is preserves an internal cannabinoid that your body produces called an anandamide. When you exercise, when you move, you produce an anandamide. And the anandamide bonds to CB1, CB2, interferes with pain, does a lot of anti-inflammatory. All CBD does is interfere with the breakdown of anandamide, keeps it in your system longer. Now, CBDA then comes and hits some pain receptors too, and some inflammation. So that's why we stick with the CBDA so strongly.
Okay. Wow. Cool stuff. And then any, I mean, I know you have them, but any cool testimonials or just, I mean, other than my mother-in-law and my dad.
Your mother-in-law is the best one. Listen,
she is.
Anybody who can impact your mother-in-law positively, God love you. Good for
highlight
you.
of her trip, Don. It was the highlight of her trip. Let me tell you, I sent her with a bottle home. She was so excited. So yeah.
And she's Salvadoran, so tequila probably doesn't do it quite as well. So, you got to go with that.
Not at all.
No, listen, the feedback that we're getting is a lot like we're hearing from you. My sleep is off the scale. Some people are seeing a radical change in HRV. Some are only seeing moderate to no change. Everyone's talking about sleep. Everyone.
That's huge.
Listen, taking a pill won't solve the paper lions. You've got to deal with those issues too. You've got to stop the sympathetic at some point in time you've got to be able to deal with that. Now, whether that's meditation or floating or all the other great tricks that we have for reducing sympathetic, boosting parasympathetic, you have to do this. This just makes sure you've got the underlying nutritional support that you need for your systems to work correctly.
Yeah. Awesome. And then when does this actually come out? When is it actually going to be launched for everybody? Right now, you guys are like in the testing phase.
We're on the website. We're expecting this launch. So we're recording this right now on August 23rd. I'm not quite sure when you're going to post. We hope to have this on the market by the end of September as a product like that. So go to modemethod.com. That's where you find it. You can actually sign up at modemethod.com, put your email in. We'll notify you when we've actually gone through our production runs. And we're in the middle of doing production. There's some things you got to figure out going from samples to production, but our sample run has been wonderful. So we're working on getting that transition. And once that's transitioned, the product will be there. So go to modemethod.com, put in your email, and as soon as we have it available, we'll let you know.
And then I'll have to get with you after the podcast. Maybe we can do a coupon code for my listeners or something like that.
Absolutely.
I'll attach it there, and we'll get it to them.
That'd Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Check the notes. We'll get you a coupon code, and that'll be great.
Yeah. Very cool. Anything else, man? Anything else that
no, just like I said, we're loving life right now, working our way up through a part of the country we have not had a chance to spend a lot of time. We just spent 5 weeks in Colorado, and work that state. Wow. And you know, Joel, what you find out is that, listen, I can go back and spend another 2 months exploring Colorado and still not see everything.
Yep.
And we're in Wyoming now, on our way to Montana. Across, I've got a feeling we're going to have to do this trip 3 or 4 times. I mean, when we came through Utah, I looked and I said, you know, we need to spend a month in Utah to hit, you know, Arches and Zion and all the great parks. So our trip is, we're on our way to the Northwest right now. We'll be back in the Carolinas in November and December, down to Florida, my brother's place. But I think when we come back west in January, we're just going to spend a month in Utah, so that we can get the, and, you know, Yellowstone. I mean, we're at the Tetons, and I'm like, you can't do Yellowstone in a day. You can, I mean, you just can't do it.
Yeah.
So listen, we're loving this part of the country that you figured out was a great place to live a long time ago.
I just figured it out recently.
Yeah. Well,
it's
we'll be
exciting,
down
man.
to Lake Tahoe. I think our last stop in the Northwest is going to be Lake Tahoe. So that's probably familiar territory for you.
It is. And actually, just FYI, I don't know if you know this, but I just got done on a 3-day trip to McCall, Idaho, which anybody in Idaho will tell you is the Lake Tahoe of Idaho. And it was beautiful.
Oh, cool.
So if you want to, McCall, yeah. MCCALL, just, and beautiful lakes, warmer water, I thought, than Lake Tahoe, just FYI, and the trees and everything. Really nice environment. You'll like it.
I want to get down to my friend Stephen Kotler. So if you're into HRV and you've read, I recommend you go back and read Flow, The Psychology of Optimum. But Stephen's books, The Rise of Superman, Stealing Fire, The Art of the Impossible, all great. New York Times bestsellers book. Steve and I have gotten to be friends. So he lives down in the Lake Tahoe area. So hopefully get down there and have a good dinner with him.
Yeah, that'd be great. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on again for the second time, and just appreciate our friendship, and just it's exciting to see all the things that you're up to and that you're doing.
Well, let's not take as long next time. I'll try and come up with something for your listeners, for your tribe. And again, if they go put their information in, we'll make sure and get notification when the product's ready.
Sounds good. Awesome, Don. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Joe.